What's up, everybody? Welcome to Coshun Cast. Great to have you with us. It's December 29th. We are live with you. Unless you're looking at this at a later date, then we won't be. Craig Coshun. I know it. Craig Coshun and James Stewart, producer extraordinaire, on board. James, post Merry Christmas to you. It looks like you got through everything with the young kids pretty well, huh?
Yep, we made it. We had a good time. Holidays were, as always, longer than you expected and somehow also shorter than you expected. Just full of everything. But yeah, it was a good time. Good Christmas. How about you?
Well, it was good. We had the in-laws in for a while. We had graduation weekend for my son the weekend before, and so it felt like we had like a 2-week long Christmas with all the family and stuff. So it worked out really well. But here's my question for you: not what you ate today. Christmas is really not about giving; it's receiving. So, what was the best gift you got?
The best. So I don't know if I've told you this, but my office doesn't have any windows. So the best gift that I got was, let's see if I have it here, this little projector. And it's the best gift because then I can project an image of the outside world onto my wall and pretend that I have a window.
Wow. So what do you, if you get this thing up and rolling, what would be your first like projection of something?
I had it up and running yesterday and I was watching Hawaii out my window.
Wow. Yeah. That's impressive.
Fake it till you make it, right?
You're gonna need that for like 60 straight days at least.
Yeah, because looking out the window won't be any better, so I might as well make my own.
No, that's true. That's true. So it was a busy Christmas day because of sports as well, which is very unusual around these parts. The Bucks have been playing some Christmas Day games lately, but they've been on the road. They had the home game this year against the Celtics. Somehow the Celtics had 10 players out, and the Bucks needed the last 30 seconds of heroics from a lot of guys to win that one. We'll talk about that in just a minute. But first, the Packers also played, and I think that was the big highlight on everybody's calendars. Hey, the Packers are playing on Christmas Day. They're rolling right now, and you know what, James? Quite frankly, they don't look really good right now. They don't look really crisp. I don't know exactly why that's the case. Aaron Rodgers is still doing what he does, but they were lucky to win against the Browns a week after they were, lucky to win against Baltimore, it seemed like.
Yeah, and I was just going to say that, like, the last two games, you put yourself in a situation where your defense has to win the game. And, like, you look at the Cleveland game, Baker had 4 interceptions. How is that a 2-point game?
Right. It seems impossible.
Yeah. Your quarterback had no turnovers, and their quarterback had 4 interceptions, and somehow it comes down to like 2 points. I don't know what's going on. They did make the plays when they needed to make them. But, yeah, I mean, you do have to have a little bit of worry. And I guess you just – at least I just hope that these are two teams that we're not really going to ever have to worry about. So, take the 2 wins and move on. But it is kind of frightening to know that Tyler Huntley and Baker Mayfield can be within 1 or 2 points of you.
Yeah, and Mayfield didn't look – I mean, I tell you what, I don't watch him much, but man, I was not impressed at all. Good guy, love his commercials.
Yeah.
But, I mean, those are some gifts the Packers got. There's no question about that. But you know what?
Yeah.
That's what it's all about, right? I mean, this is part of the new age of if you're going to play a long, extended season now, which the NFL is playing 17 games in 18 weeks, you're gonna go through stretches like this. You got to battle COVID. Now you got to battle just the fact that you got to make it to the playoffs.
Yeah.
And they're still the team at the top, man. They're still the team at the top, but a little worrisome because of the Cowboys are coming on, and it seemed like it was going to be Arizona or maybe the Rams, but now all of a sudden the Cowboys are only a game behind, and I mean it's just going to be kind of interesting here in the last couple of weeks.
I know, for me, I know the Cowboys are playing well, but I feel like the Cowboys are just at this point for me, like I'm not going to believe in them until they do it, just because of the amount of times that they should have done it. And also, they're my second least favorite fan base. So I hate the Bears and I hate the Cowboys. So I will not be cheering for them at all. But I mean, yeah, they are obviously you start to look around the league at this point and say, you know, who are your top 3 seeds or whatever. And to me, yes, the last 2 games are ugly, but you still got the wins. You got 2 wins out of it, so you just move on, take care of Minnesota this weekend, and then Detroit next weekend. And, you know, 3 losses is not a bad season for sure.
By the way, Nick has already commented, not watching Pfizer out your window, Pfizer Forum. It's Hawaii.
I can. That's the whole point of the projector is I can watch whatever I want.
Hey, so this is going to be my request, just to get off the subject just a second. That I don't know if that's a curtain or if that's just a dark wall behind you, but it's got room for a window, in my opinion. So I think you should do the projector and show us all what you're looking at next week when we all get together again. So
done.
Yeah. All right. Matt LaFleur. I want to just have a coaching conversation for a second. Matt LaFleur is 38-9, and this is his 3rd season as coach. That 38 victories matches George Seifert of the old San Francisco 49ers for the most wins in their first 3 years in the league. He obviously has 2 more games to better that record. But there's a common denominator in this, James. You got to have a great quarterback. And George Seifert had Joe Montana and Steve Young. And Matt LaFleur has our good guy, Aaron Rodgers, at the helm. How good are these coaches right now? Or is it all about the players that they have?
I mean, it's always hard because you look at it and, like, I don't care how good of a coach you are. Like, you're not having success without a good quarterback. But it also, you could say, maybe not. I guess a quarterback could carry a coach, but I don't think that is the situation. To me, when I saw this stat, I was kind of surprised by it. Not that I didn't think they had success in the last 3 years, but just I feel like I fell into the turmoil of everything that's been going on. And then the way that, like, last season ended with the Rodgers, it wasn't my call debacle. Yeah. So it's kind of like you forget how much success they've had. And I feel like every time something like this comes up, one of these things comes up, it, like, reminds us that there's really no reason other than his own, you know, attitude for Rodgers to leave. This is the best place for him to be to win. There really is no, you have a great coach. Your team seems to have hit their stride. Your defense is playing probably a little bit over their head. You have weapons. Like, what else could you want? And LaFleur is proven to be kind of the anchor in that.
Yeah, and I will say this, you know, in my opinion, when it comes to coaching, it's what you do with everybody else. I mean, if you have, if you're lucky enough to have even a good quarterback and a healthy one at that, let alone a great quarterback who's also healthy, I mean, you're going to go places if you get out of the guy's way. And it probably took 2 years for Matt LaFleur to figure out to get out of Aaron Rodgers' way. Right. And you know what I mean? I mean, it had to come down to agreeing on the plays that are being called, so on and so forth. And I think we're seeing that a lot, maybe surrounding them by certain individuals. But I mean to tell you, and we've talked about this a little bit, with everything that's gone on all year with not only health and safety protocol, but the real legit injuries this team has suffered on both sides of the ball. Somebody has to hold the team together. And I don't think a quarterback can hold 53, 58, 65, 75 guys together. The head
Right.
coach does that. And Aaron Rodgers, this past week, gave LaFleur a lot of credit for what he's doing internally and how he's going about his business with his coaching staff and his players and stuff. And that, to me, now that's a sign you've got maybe the greatest player playing right now, and he's on your team, and he's saying those things about you, paying you those compliments. So, it's all about respect. And
yeah, especially because Aaron doesn't say anything he doesn't want to.
Exactly. So yeah, he's done a great job this year. I don't think there's any doubt about it. And you got to give him a little bit of, the first 2 years that I brought up, trying to figure out how to be a head coach, because he was never a head coach before.
Right. Yeah, and it's, to me, like, I always wonder too, because you have like an established quarterback, obviously, in Rodgers, and you put a young up and coming coach who's probably going to, for lack of better words, kind of grift on some wins on Aaron Rodgers, sales. But I feel like from what I've seen, just the dynamic between them, they have grown for sure. And like we said, Rodgers doesn't need to pay anyone a compliment if he doesn't want to. So, to me, it looks like everything's working.
All right, so the Packers have a 1-game lead with 2 games to go for the number 1 seed, and of course, the number 1 seed is the only one in the NFC and the AFC to get a bye in the playoffs, because the playoffs expanded this year. So, and it also secures home field advantage, obviously. So it's a twofold thing. Won't be easy, I don't think. This week, it seems like the Vikings are coming to town. You never know how the Vikings are going to play the Packers. They always seem to pull off some kind of magic. They probably played their way out of the playoffs last week in their latest debacle loss. But it's the Vikings, and James, it's going to be like single digits to below 0 on Sunday night. It's going to be the coldest day of the year. And here they are going to match up against each other on Sunday night. Sunday night in January or December, whenever this is taking place, January 2nd, just doesn't seem right. But it's kind of fun if you're a Packer fan.
Yeah, but you know that the Vikings would love to assist in the Packers not getting that number 1 seed.
Yeah.
And for whatever reasons, that's always a close game with them in recent years, but I'm just interested to see what they do. I don't want to see Justin Jefferson go off again. Like, figure out whatever it is to stop that.
He's mad anyway, so he may not.
That's true. And then the other thing, I think you obviously play to win the game, but to me, it's more about shoring up your offense and defense of kind of your go-tos and your schemes. Like, you should hopefully take care of the team. Hopefully take care of the Vikings early, and then just start getting stuff, because you're not going to have to worry about the Vikings or next week's Lions in the playoffs. So, kind of just get yourself set for that would be my goal.
So if this comes down to the final week in Detroit for securing the number 1 seed, what's your confidence level that the Packers can win there in 2 weeks?
I would say foolishly 100%. There's no reason to lose
foolishly. You said foolishly.
Because I know that you should never be 100% on anything. But aren't the Lions starting like Tim Boyle right now? Or is Goff back? I mean,
I'm not watching any Lions.
Right, it doesn't matter. Like, you shouldn't worry about them at all. I mean, obviously respect them enough to play them and take care of business. But as a fan, like that, I'm looking at this, and this is like, if they win this game, like, they should easily win in Detroit. There's no reason to lose to Detroit.
Well, I hear you there. And is this the same Nick or another Nick?
It is the same Nick.
A great game. I know it is. Great game to watch no matter what. But Packers cannot be slacking. That is for sure. Well, we have one faithful out there. That's for sure. Yeah. Thanks, Nick.
It only takes one. It starts with one.
You got to have you can't have a fan
You
base.
can't have
unless
two
you
before you have one. I mean,
That's for sure. All right, so the other big game on Christmas was earlier in the day. Mentioned that the Bucks beat the Celtics. Bucks trailed by 19. Really, for most of the game, it seemed like,
yeah,
even when they seemed to get close, like within single digits, under 10, in a blink of an eye, all of a sudden they were down 14-16 again. And it really, like with 5 minutes to go, even 3 minutes to go, it didn't seem maybe like the Bucks were going to pull this one off. A full strength Bucks team, by the way,
yeah,
against a depleted Celtics team. But Giannis had a big block. Drew had a big steal. Wes had a reload three that put the Bucks up, gave them their first lead with 30 seconds to go, and they end up winning that game. So it was a really exciting finish. But it was the beginning of a healthy team now, and now the good problem. We have all these healthy players. How do you find time for guys? How do you find a rotation? That's the key right now, right?
and I think that honestly is part of what happened. I mean, it's to me, you look at that game and you say the outcome. I'll take everything that happened. I'm happy with the outcome, but the path there was a little messy. I mean, you got Dante, Bobby, Giannis back, suddenly infused into the offense, and then Dante obviously almost a year, and then on top of that you have shorthanded Celtics, which means that if they're in a good rhythm, no one's coming out of the game. I mean, they only had 8 guys.
Yeah.
So there's not a huge rotation going there. You're going to see a lot of Jason Tatum, a lot of Jaylen Brown. But the outcome is that by the end of the game, they figured it out, whether it be that they just had more energy or they figured it out. They won the game, and you walk away with knowing that now we have to figure out how to get Dante back in the swing of things. What does Dante Grayson look like? What does, we saw more Cousins the last couple games. So now Bobby's got to work back in. Cousins got to take a step back. So there's just a lot of moving parts to a game that they definitely should have won, but the Celtics still have enough talent. If Tatum and Brown are playing, that they can potentially beat anyone with just having those two guys on the floor. So, the takeaway is they won on the big stage and be happy.
Yep, and they went to they're in Orlando really for most of this week,
Yeah.
a very rare yet perfect setting for a team from up north. They can snowbird it down to Orlando, Florida. They left Monday, played last night, beat the Magic, a very, very depleted, sad case Orlando Magic team right now who only has 7 wins. But the Bucks were able to pull that one off. Day off today down there, and then they play again tomorrow in Orlando. So they have back-to-backs with a day in between against one of the worst teams in the league. They certainly don't need that day off, but they'll take it. And if you figure you're in Orlando Monday through Friday before you head back to Milwaukee for that Saturday night game against Toronto, so get another win down there. They always say too, James, that it's all about being on the road. It's all about team bonding. So maybe with everybody healthy now and a good practice, couple of good games under their belt, this will hopefully be the beginning of a good stretch for them as we get into the new year.
Yeah, well, like you said, they have Orlando again, so you should hopefully, catch another win. And at this point, as these guys are getting back, it's just about stacking wins, and as Giannis always says, like building on good habits. So hopefully we can kind of hit the new year running. Who do they have on New Year's Day?
Toronto, I believe.
Toronto, okay. And just trying to pull up. They have the Pelicans.
They have a stretch where they can win some games here, and then next weekend, I think they go to Brooklyn. So
yeah. So we have Orlando, New Orleans, Pistons, then the Raptors.
Oh, it's New Orleans on Saturday?
Yeah. So, I mean, Orlando, New Orleans, Detroit should hypothetically be another 3 wins. I mean, 2-1 out of that probably isn't bad either, but those are all 3 beatable teams before you see Raptors and Nets. And I don't know where the Raptors are as far as health. I know Siakam's been in and out, but they're always tough. Fred VanVleet will probably go off.
They're living under Canadian rules anyway for COVID, so you can't talk health about Toronto. They're in a different category. So, it's interesting. This is going to be, we just started doing this podcast, and we're at our last one for the calendar year, December 29th. So we've done what, maybe 10? I don't even know.
This is number 11.
Number 11. But I think, it's a good time to look back at the Bucks of 2021. I mean, they won their first championship in 50 years. It was positively incredible. It just seems, when you're here and you're covering the team that we are, it just seems like it was yesterday that it was July. We had thousands of people downtown. One of the most exciting round after round after round of playoffs that anybody could possibly ask for, especially with a 50-year drought. I don't think it could have been scripted any better. So I thought, you and I agreed, let's look back in some big top moments. And I'll start. I compiled a little list, but I'm also would love to know your thoughts on some of these and where you'd spin some as well. But this season got kicked off about a year ago at this time. This past season did, because they had a shortened season after the off season. And, it's days before the season began, they traded for Drew Holiday, and everyone's like, this is the final piece to the puzzle. And obviously it was a perfect fit. They had to make another adjustment or two, but the acquisition of Drew Holiday and then him signing a deal after the season began to stay in Milwaukee for another 4 years.
Yeah, and I think too, like, at least for me as a fan, like when he signed the deal, and then you had Giannis sign his deal, it feels like it's the first time that I can remember that you kind of have like a core locked up, and obviously you had it locked up before you won. So in hindsight, it's even better now to know that like you locked them up, you won, and you don't have to worry about what a lot of teams have to worry about after a championship, is that everybody wants to get paid. And, obviously we did lose a couple guys to the championship, but Drew Holiday set the tone from kind of day one. And I think a lot of people were just at the point of, we knew the Eric Bledsoe kind of experiment wasn't working anymore. So we were happy to just move on anything. And that's kind of where I was at that point with Drew Holiday. And he kind of just grew into, like, Drew to me is the perfect guy that if you don't watch him every night, you don't see how many little things he does and kind of how powerful he is and strong he is in around the basket and in the paint and how he moves guys around. If you don't see him every night, those are the easy things, because he's not a 20-point a night scorer. He's not a 12 assist guy. You know what I mean? He's not a triple double guy, but he's a good defender who kind of fills in offensively whatever you need. And it's obviously been a game changer for the franchise.
Well, he's clutch, and he's in a body like no other. I mean, I really, I'll date myself a little bit here. His body structure reminds me of Quinn Buckner when Buckner played in Milwaukee back in the late 70s, 80s. With Marcus. I mean, he's just structure-wise, he's tough to defend, and then yet he's sneaky fast. His ability to defend has been off the charts. We just saw it, in the final minute of the game on Christmas against the Celtics. And so that to me was, both ends of the floor, just a phenomenal package that the Bucks got in acquiring him. Another trade that they had to make midseason was getting PJ Tucker over here. And we know he turned out to be the difference maker, not in the same capacity,
right,
but in a much different one, that every team that wins a championship needs, but every team that wins a championship sometimes doesn't have, and the teams that don't win it never have, it seems like. You know what I mean? And he was a difference maker. He brought that dog mentality. And I don't know if they win it without him. I really don't, because look how close every series was.
Well, and you know what PJ, to me, so Giannis, Drew, Chris, those are clearly your big three. And if you go back last year, let's say you add in Lopez, you might have the nicest 4 starting guys in the league. Like don't get me wrong, they compete, they work hard, they show up to play, but all kind of like quiet, calm, reserved guys, right? PJ was the complete opposite balance to that, and you can include Bobby Portis in that too. Just like fiery, kind of ready to erupt at any minute. And I feel like as much as you need kind of a leader, you need a guy like that too. Like you need him to understand kind of his role and to control it. But when those guys pick their moments, like the crowd erupts and everything kind of builds off that. Like this is kind of the first time I remember seeing, like, it feels like the momentum started with a charge or a good defensive play or a block that, Bobby goes running down the sideline for. You know what I mean? Like, those are the things that, like, the crowd erupts from, and then that energy filters down. And we've started, the Bucks have kind of started runs defensively. They've started runs, just by good box outs and things like that like don't necessarily make the box score, but when you watch the game, you remember those moments.
Well, and I look at PJ Tucker, and I agree 100% with you. He's just the type of guy where you want the matchup against Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant still had his 40 points. We all get that. He had 48 in that final one. But I mean, here's the thing.
But he needed 49.
He did. He needed 49, and he did. I mean, that's the bottom line. You can't measure somebody's defensive success by how many points he doesn't allow.
Right.
But it's how hard he makes his guy work. And guess what? They always say you can't give up an inch. Well, Kevin Durant needed one more inch. He was fighting for one more inch, and he tried to steal one on that 3-point attempt that they measured by the toes of his shoe that he was on the line. But I mean, in that, guess what? That's not luck. That's the end of a game. That's the end of overtime. That's 50 minutes of playing, whatever it was. I mean, you miss that guy. And that topic of, oh man, if he could have just stayed, whatever decision that they made, it doesn't matter to me where he is now. It's where he was when the Bucks needed to win a championship, and he's part of the team. So, yeah,
and I think that it was good to see, like, when they came back and he got his ring, just to kind of the reminder that, like, the fans really did appreciate, having him in town. So that was a fun night.
Yeah, it was for sure. And speaking of fans, Bobby Portis, I have this on our list as well, emerges as a fan favorite. Like, when's the last time you saw a player get embraced the way Bobby Portis has? Now, this doesn't include Giannis. It's a different embracement, because he was new to the team a year ago, and his level of production rose during home games last year for the Bucks.
Yeah, it's like, that every team kind of has that guy that, like, that has a following and you don't kind of know why. Bobby's not that guy. Like, it may have started like that we kind of liked his antics, but the numbers and everything that he's put up, and I'm still blown away that he's as good of a 3-point shooter as he is. Like, last night, I'm just like, I don't get it. Like, why are they leaving him open? Like, he's knocked down since he's gotten here, and it's again the perfect kind of complement to this group of nice guys. But you also got to remember, like, he's 26. Like, we've talked about this a couple times. Like, there's potentially a future there. Like, I don't know. I hope that they can lock him up long term, but he has made it was already fun going to games, obviously, because they were winning. But I just feel like every game you go to physically, you're just waiting for that moment for the crowd to chant Bobby, because you know it's coming at some point.
Well, and I think he's proved himself enough at this point that he's a legitimate starter in the NBA. He's a legitimate sixth man in the NBA. He no longer needs the home crowd to make him produce something and be nothing on the road. I mean, you're talking about the threes last night in Orlando. He hit his first 5 threes, and the Bucks needed that in the first half. But you start seeing this guy's he's rounded his game out, and I don't see his production falling. He's a good fit here, and to me, again, one of our top 10 storylines, for the Bucks in winning their championship a year ago. So I had a list of things now just for the playoffs, and we already touched on KD in Game 7 of the Eastern Conference semifinals. One of the greatest games we'll see in a long time. I think everybody could watch that one over and over and over again. But then you move on to the conference finals against the Hawks. Game 4, and Giannis goes down with that, in my opinion, was an ugly knee injury.
Yeah.
And there were reports out within hours nationally that the Bucks inside word is they're fearing that he's going to require surgery, and it's his ACL, and he's going to be out a year. And it didn't look good. He's not going to play in Game 5, but he's on his feet. He's going through some workouts and stuff. Didn't play Game 6 either, but Middleton and Holiday rose to the occasion and carried the Bucks into the NBA championship series.
And to me, like that, it's almost, how we say things, things like you can't write this stuff. Like, to me, that was Chris Middleton proving the value, undoubtedly, of his contract.
Yeah.
When Giannis went down, you need 2 games in the Eastern Conference Finals. It's no doubt you're turning to your second guy, right? And to me, we've had so many games or so many times where we say that Chris is more of like a third guy than a second guy, etc., blah, blah, blah. But he showed up every single moment that we needed in the playoffs. Every time that he was needed, he showed up. 40-point games, it just, to me, it's like, imagine if like Scotty had gotten his moment in The Last Dance, right? To say that, like, you matter, dude. You did this too. Like, I know that I'm Giannis and I'm scoring 50 in Game 6, but like, this is your championship too. Like, it was the perfect story for him to cap off, to get them to the finals, and Giannis to come back, and then they go on to win.
Yeah, it is an incredible storyline. And again, when I prefaced us even looking at this, you just can't script a better series. I mean, we've seen dominant teams go on and win, 4-0, 4-1, 4-2, maybe if they struggle a little bit. But the Bucks were behind in all these playoff series, and they had things happen to them. They had some big moments, and then Giannis gets healthy enough to come back to the NBA championship series, and we're like, slow down. You don't need to run from one end to the other and block shots in Game 1 and Game 2. But he came up with a big block in Game 4, which I know that you love to talk about this story.
Yeah, it really is, to me, my it's just incredible that he was able to spin around and get that block on Ayton. Like, it's just watching it over, you think to yourself, oh, he's done. And we've seen it in so many times in like that super slow-mo where you can see that Booker, just as a part of his dribble, comes up with the lob too, so it's fluid there too. There's no like indication that Giannis is at that point basically he saw whatever he saw, guessed and turned and jumped and made the block. And you'd mentioned it earlier in that Celtics game. I was thinking that's the first thing that came to my mind when he blocked Robert Williams toward the end of the game. Was just like, this guy just shows up at the rim when needed. And has no fear as to where he inserts his arm, and just like, because that's a dangerous block to try to get, the one where your forearm is basically up against the rim. Like if a guy comes down with enough force, you're in trouble, at least a sprained wrist. And he just kind of flies in there, reckless abandon, and every time I've watched that play so many times. That and the alley-oop. I've watched the alley-oop. I've probably watched a little bit more, but
yeah. Well, that's offense for you, that's for sure. Yeah. But I guess the one thing that I have on the block and the blocks that he continues to make that are very similar to that, he has it in his mind. Giannis does. I am going to make a defensive play. I'm going to make a block here. I am not going to make a play on defense. A play on defense would be, I'm going to make sure this guy doesn't score an easy two and make him earn at the free throw line. And it doesn't matter what point in the game we are. That's not his attitude. His attitude is, you're not going to score and I'm going to take the ball away from you. You're not going to have an opportunity to even go to the free throw line. And that's, I think defensively, that's what separates this guy with his play literally at the rim. It's dangerous for about everybody else, but it's not for him.
Well, and I don't know if you saw the article way back that GQ did. They did like a video where he like hopped online and answered a bunch of questions. And one of the questions, one of the fans asked like why he doesn't guard the other team's best player. And his response was, because I'm the best help defender in the league.
Yeah.
And it's just like, when he kind of said it, you were just like, that makes total sense. Why? Like, it makes total sense. That's how he like, and also makes sense why he's been hoping that Brooke would come back so he can get some more easy rebounds. But, it just like, he knows exactly who he is. And he knows that like, that's what the team expects him to meet guys at the rim, to play, incredible help defense. And it allows him to float, which is kind of how he got that defensive player of the year. He's right. He's a great float defender because he can cover so much ground. I mean, clearly he can spin around and jump from the free throw line and still block an alley-oop at its apex. So I'm just going to trust him.
Well, I mean, he covers space, parallel to the floor like nobody else. And then he covers space, perpendicular to the floor on just getting up in the air in his vertical, and the space he covers, at the rim. It's just amazing to see. But you brought up the alley-oop in Game 5 of the NBA Finals in Phoenix. That seemed to seal the deal that the Bucks were coming back home, and a chance to win the championship on their home floor in Game 6 is what they did. But, we were in before the season began, you and I doing interviews with the Bucks players, and you brought up that alley-oop to Drew just to re-describe who called for it. Take us through that scenario, because that's just pretty cool stuff, because it's firsthand from Drew's side.
Yeah, I think the coolest part about it was like, again, because we see these things in like super slow-mo so often that we're able to kind of infer on and guess what they're guessing, because it just, you just look at it. But there's this moment where he's coming down the court and you see him look up at the clock, and you see in the background, Giannis is already sprinting and calling for it. Right? Yeah. Yeah. And it was almost, and that's what I asked Drew. And I was like, I know that like as a point guard, you had to be thinking to yourself, this isn't the right play. But it also, like, if we make this, like, it's over. Like, it's kind of like one of those, you call your home run, you call your shot and you go deliver it. And then it's that much more impactful than just 2 points. So you could see him kind of look up, look at the court to kind of like assess where everyone was, and then you just hear Giannis yelling. And when he threw it, we didn't even see Giannis yet. Like, from a lot of the angles, he throws it, and you don't even see Giannis, and Giannis just flies in out of nowhere, and it's just like the perfect moment. And the way that kind of Giannis dunks it through contact, but the look at the camera afterwards, as if he knew exactly where the camera was, like it wasn't a Giannis scowl. It was just a cold, dead stare. It's over. It's like that's the look that that I got. Like such an amazing moment, and to hear like Drew go through it, and to hear him talk about like, yes, it's probably not the pass that he should have thrown, but it was definitely like the moment called for it, and he just threw it where no one but Giannis could get it.
If you're a point guard, though, you want to have the greatest assist of your life. Yeah. And that was the greatest assist of Drew's life. Yeah. There's no question about that. One of the funnest things to watch, we talked about the block, the alley-oop. Then you get into game 6, and Giannis scores 50. I don't think anybody saw that coming. I really don't. And it just built throughout the game. It's not like he got points in bunches and then was quiet. He was in championship form for 48 minutes.
It was just kind of like a full on nonstop onslaught. Because you're right, it didn't come in like bunches of 10. It just was like a slow trickle throughout the entire game. And then you got to the point where the end of the game where everyone kind of knew it. And I know we've kind of talked about it a couple of times, but when Pat had the ball at the and you could just hear everyone screaming, "Give it to Giannis." Give it to Giannis. And I'm pretty sure he missed the free throw on purpose so that they could get the ball back.
That's funny, man. And then they win, and I think out of that whole game, to be honest with you, the one thing that's always going to stand out for me is what happened when the game was over. And when Giannis was fighting off tears and walked over to the bench when everyone's, flooding the floor and the confetti and the streamers are going down, and he had a big, long cry in public.
Yeah.
I'm sure he didn't want to do it that way, but he found a spot on the baseline, and he sat down and had himself a cry for a minute. And I mean, we all need that,
Right.
Most of us aren't going to be at a level like Giannis ever in our lives, but I think he proved that sometimes you just need a cry, and sometimes, it's not the big smiley face. It's you just need a cry, man, to let it out. And
you just got to release all that energy. And the cool thing is, like, Giannis, especially after that game, but Giannis deserves that kind of iconic moment that all of the great. I mean, when you think of Jordan, you think of him hugging the trophy with the the cigar. You remember Kobe, with the big leather jacket and the 2 trophies. Like, it's just there's these iconic moments that these players have from winning championships, because we cover so much of it.
Yeah.
But he deserved that moment. He deserves that iconic moment of, the picture of him on the sideline, just sitting there taking it all in. Like, because you can see in his face, you can see the weight just fall off of him, and and him really soaking up that moment.
And we saw it with Jordan. Had his cry too, after he won a championship after his dad was murdered. And these guys just they're just the perfect fit. It's just amazing to watch. And then finally, speaking of watching, the parade that drew in, a couple 100,000, maybe 300,000 people to downtown Milwaukee. It was a perfect afternoon to celebrate a team in this city for the first time in 50 years. I got to co-host that one for our telecast. You got to ride on one of the championship buses. It was
I
Giannis'
did.
bus too, right?
It was Giannis and Bobby. So I mean,
You were running the camera.
I was
just
trying
want to
to
make
see
sure
if I
that
could find a
people
picture.
don't understand that like you were part of the championship team and you got to drink champagne.
Here, I think I found a picture. Hold on a second.
I would have brought a picture of me up in the booth if we were going to show pictures.
Well,
That's what
I
people
just sneak
want to
it
see.
on you.
That's what people want to see.
There we go. There is there's me and Bobby.
Nice.
So yeah,
That's
that was
cool.
actually like on the bus. And obviously for me, selfishly, that is probably the greatest. I can't imagine having a better moment of my professional career. So covering that was just amazing, and seeing those guys like on the bus, kind of just let go and enjoy themselves. The season's over, which means they don't have to worry about practice tomorrow, which means there was a lot of champagne involved. So it was just so fun. And the city really like, I mean, considering everything that we've gone through in the last 2 years with COVID and everything, the city showed up and made sure that like these guys know how much support there is. And that's just amazing. You know, it would have been sad to have had to celebrate that kind of a, championship and not be able to get together.
Right.
So luckily we were able to. Because it was, like you said, 50 years in the making, and just to see that many people in one place, like I've never even seen that many people in Milwaukee, period. That was like, It was as if all of Summerfest at one point had lined up in one area, like every concert going on at the same time. Like it was just so many people.
It was just it was the perfect way to cap things off. And those parades happen in a hurry because it was only 2 days after the championship, and everybody pulled it together, and you just can't ask for a better way to to cap off and toast a season. That's for sure of a champion.
So look at this. This is just one spot.
Yeah.
Leading on the way back, and this was toward the end of the end of the route too. Right. So it's just imagine that all the way down Water Street, curling around down, like there was just so many people. I couldn't believe it. It was amazing.
It was a sight. It was a sight to see. And here's the thing. We haven't seen it before. Hopefully we're going to see it again real soon. I think this team has a chance to do it. That's for sure. So, all right, pal. I think we've done a good job covering the year that was for the Bucks. Yep. We talked a little Packers. Maybe as we turn into the calendar new year, we can start up with a little hot stove. Hopefully baseball will get their act together and start talking again. So
hopefully
we can
get some news.
Get an agreement going for sure. So happy New Year to you. Happy New Year to everybody. And we will talk to you next week on Coshun Cast. See you then.
All right. Take it easy.